So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a short overview of technology and hospitality laws in digital future and where does Uzbekistan stands. Uh, just because many students have asked me, and I decided to give a quick overview of this. As we all know that we have entered into the fourth industrial revolution, and the first industrial revolution started with the mechanization when the steam engine came, and then there was the era of mass production, and then the automation. We have observed the automation, and now we have entered into the robotization, which is called as fourth industrial revolution. Yes. So if we look at this slide, which shows the contemporary data, that 4.5 billion people, which is more than half of the planet's population, um is somehow using social media. Yes. And if we talk about internet users, more than 60% population on the planet is using the internet, which means that everyone knows something about what's going on internet. Yes. And if you look at the tourism ecosystem, it is becoming more and more complex, and many new products are being invented, and commercialization is booming in terms of tourism ecosystem. And when it comes to the intervention of technology, so many new things have been introduced in recent 5 years, and especially in the post-COVID world, it is being expected that the more and more products will be introduced, because tourism industry has to revitalize. They have to overcome the losses which they have faced during the COVID period. So definitely they will try to overcome these losses by introducing new products. If we talk about most disruptive technologies, previously Wi-Fi analytics and geolocation technology, it was considered as a most disruptive technologies in tourism. Yes. And Internet of Things is something which is contemporary disruptive technology in terms of tourism. But in future, I think that the artificial intelligence, or if we achieve artificial general intelligence, it will be disruptive. But tourism industry has very warmly welcomed robotics. More and more hospitality related stakeholders are automizing their functions, but these functions are at that present lacking some serious legal intervention. For example, liabilities are not being discussed by the manufacturers and by the companies who are installing these robots. Yes. So for this purpose, we have already discussed that there is a possibility to introduce the concept of digital personhood to give a separate legal personality to the robots. Yes. And world is becoming one digital connected world. The new innovation technologies are interconnected. Everything will be connected with internet in the era of internet of things. And there is no escape from the technology, which is bringing new uses as well as new business models, new ways of commercialization, and so on. Yes. And this is something which is really disruptive in terms of tourism, which is called as mixed reality, the combination of augmented reality and virtual reality. Yes, the spectrum is drawn here. You can see that spectrum is broad, and each of these things, they are posing a real threat to the tourism industry. I think that theoretically speaking, many countries will lose a lot of business just because the augmented reality or virtual reality experience will be sufficient for the tourists. Yes, rather than to coming to these countries, these people will be relying entirely on the virtual experience, and this will be sufficient for them. So if we talk about social media uses around the world, um, we have seen some statistic earlier, and we all know that Uzbekistan is now, the Facebook is now changed to Meta. Meta is a different virtual experience for the users, and definitely is going to impact the tourist industry. For example, many people don't prefer to travel just because of not sufficient hoteling facilities, for example. They the standards and preferences are different. They cannot compromise on the standards of their the place where they are going to stay. And for these people, a virtual experience will be more than enough. But on the other side, it will be a very catastrophic situation for the businesses in those countries who are entirely relying on the tourists coming to these places. For example, in Uzbekistan, there are many places where the hoteling industry is not much developed. So the tourists, if they would be offered a virtual experience, they will be happy to get this virtual experience rather than to physically go there. Yes. So these statistics are from the websites of Ministry of Tourism, which shows that in the upcoming 5 years there will be a boom in terms of in terms of foreign tourists, number of foreign tourists, and of course the number of domestic tourists is also increasing, and the new hotel facilities are being made, and the number of tour operators are also, improving. The statistics are promising, yes, which shows that there will be tourists. If we don't have these, of course we don't have these pandemics or other travel restrictions, theoretically speaking, we will have tourists coming to Uzbekistan. So what we need to think about the nexus between tourism industry and technology. And for this purpose, we need to discover the digital dividends. Digital dividends means how much technology impact on the lives of individuals at a specific place. Unfortunately, in case of Central Asia, there isn't any study which has been done in the recent 5 years. The last study was done by the World Bank in 2016, I think, which shows that how much technology has impacted on the lives of individuals. Nevertheless, all the Central Asian countries have projects related to e-government, smart contract, 5G, data protection, e-commerce regulations, and so on, which shows that people are becoming more and more, interconnected and connected, or at least they have some sort of know-how related to digitalization. But there are many challenges. Some of them we have discussed already. For example, citizen oriented challenges when it comes to the hospitality industry, citizens as well as state employees. And I think all the stakeholders need serious attention related to their capacity building. Yes. And then when it comes to the interaction with technology, people should realize that the privacy needs to be compromised if they need security. And similarly, there are some challenges related to institutions. Data is being collected by the machines. Machines are foreigners or imported by the other countries. Data is being produced and being stored, but the management of data is not at adequate level. So which poses cross-border digital security compromisation. The data is usually collected by the instruments which have been imported. How much the state is serious about the protection of data is still under question. So how to overcome the challenges and how to do an X-ray of the issues related to tourism industry. We have a skeptical framework. The framework provides a robust structure for understanding the complex business environment in which tourism industry operates. There are so many factors: social, cultural, economical, physical, technical, international, communication, infrastructure factors, administrative and institutional factors, and legal and political factors. We need to look into them, but I will not go into details of these. For immediate concerns, I think that there is a need to introduce legislation related to virtual reality because it is disruptive. Need to introduce legislation based on tourism trigger designs and legislation related to e-commerce in tourism. There are laws related to e-commerce. Uzbekistan is doing much better as compared to some of the neighboring countries. More than 20 laws, decrees, special laws have been introduced by the state, but we need exclusive laws related to e-commerce in tourism because there are so many other business models available. Then there is a need to introduce legislation related to tourism safety, awareness, and communication, safety of the tourism, or to ensure to the foreigners that they are safe in this country. We need to introduce exclusive laws. And then there is a need to introduce laws related to tourism ecology, which is very important. Ecology is something which is neglected. And does Uzbekistan really need international experience? Many people talk about international experience. International experience is somehow which is demanded by many industries. Unfortunately, not all international experiences are beneficial for a country. For example, you cannot simply import something from another country in terms of laws. So you need specific laws related to them, contextualized law related to your own country. So when it comes to the international experience, we should be very conscious about importing an international experience. For this purpose, we have an alternate proposal, which is to make contextualized technology related law in Central Asia. And I am trying to introduce a new branch of jurisprudence, which is called as Central Asia Tech Law, or CAT law, which seeks to analyze and contextualize the growing impact of technology such as artificial intelligence, 5G, cloud computing, big data, medical technology, privacy, and digitalization on the national laws of Central Asian countries, especially in relation to technology ethics, regulation, and policy. And one of the most important thing is that all the agencies and ministries should correlate with the state level policy. Uzbekistan last year introduced the artificial intelligence policy, and this year in the inauguration speech, we have seen the speech of President Shafkat Mirzaev, who talked about his vision of new Uzbekistan. So we should see that all the state level policies should be abide by the other agencies and other ministries. Ministries make internal regulations and agencies make internal regulations. We should see that if these internal regulations of these ministries and agencies, they correlate with the state level agencies to give a broader perspective to the agency, to the policy. In conclusion, I would say that there is no escape from the technology. We need to learn to live in harmony with technology. Humans have already learned how to live in peace and harmony with other humans. We have learned how to live in peace and harmony with animals, our ecology. Similarly, we need to learn to live in peace and harmony with technology, and should strive for future sustainable symbiotic society. In conclusion, I can pose three big questions. The first question is that how can we use law to incentivize tourism? The purpose of law is not to put restriction on the tourism or anything which is innovative. The purpose of law is to incentivize. So we need to think how we can use law to incentivize tourism, how we can use law to regulate the innovation in tourism. Yes, there are so many new inventions. For example, I gave the example of virtual reality. How we can use law to regulate the innovations in tourism. And finally, how can we use tourism to improve the law in Uzbekistan? Because the law is driven by the substance, and tourism is introducing new substance for the law. So how we can use tourism to improve law in Uzbekistan? Thank you very much.